Sean Granger.
Good
What's going on, man?
Not too much, my friend.
I'm glad you made the trip. It was on short notice, too, which I really appreciate you coming up and spending some time. Not a crazy drive, but...
No, we've been trying to do this for a couple of months now, so...
Yeah, we have. But it's... We don't live far, but we just don't... we just don't see each other enough, I feel like. We always say that to each other, but just life's just crazy.
And that's right. We're just totally different points in life, too. You know, 3 kids keeps me pretty grounded at home these days.
Right.
I just don't have them freedoms like you guys do in your 20s to be able to just run around and do the things I want to do, but that's okay.
I'm loving it while I have it still.
Absolutely.
So, I mean...
It goes fast, you know?
Right. That's, you know... Maybe soon in the future, we'll see what happens, you know.
Absolutely.
But you want to just introduce yourself, kind of tell everybody who you're about, where you're from, who got you into hunting, where did you start hunting, stuff like that.
Okay. My name's Sean Granger. I'm born and raised in Oregon, Ohio, which is a suburb of the city of Toledo. Started waterfowling at a very, very young age, probably 6. And from there, we've been doing it my entire life. Who got me into hunting? That would be my godfather, Jim Marquette, and then my dad, Mike Granger. And that was just something that we did on the weekends as a child.
Fun.
Absolutely. You know, we woke up on Saturdays. Of course, as a kid, you're sleeping the majority of the time.
Right.
The boat rides out and whatnot. But I do remember enjoying it very much, the little bit of hunting that we did have. Because back then, for whatever reason, my godfather was just really fixated on the
Water.
refuge wall. Yeah, and it was just his spot. And we didn't really deviate from that too much. We might have moved down a little bit to the left or to the right or to the east wall or the west wall, but for the most part, we hunted the same spot all the time. So you can imagine our luck was very, you know...
Might as well go deer hunting at that point.
We weren't doing too much scouting or anything.
Right.
It just was basically based off of what, you know, the local guys at the morning breakfast area would talk about and whatnot. And,
right.
And you just went about it. Remember, social media was non-existent. We still had dial-out phones back then. When you called people, if they weren't home, that was it, and you know, that was the end of it. So,
what I mean, was that the only kind of hunting that you got into though? Was just waterfowl, never deer hunted as a kid, or
no? We never deer hunted. We did a lot of pheasant. We did a lot of rabbit. When dove came along, we were into that as well, but primarily waterfowl.
Okay.
And I remember, too, that not only was waterfowl just something we did in the wintertime. In the summertime, we would go to all the festivals. We would go to any of the waterfowl events, conferences, anything that had to do with it. They were always trying to support the birds as much as we wanted to go out and hunt them. So it was never like an off-season type thing. You were constantly thinking about birds. We were constantly... supporting that.
Right.
So,
no, it's I don't know. I mean, I got into it like a way crazier way. I mean, getting my whole family into it and stuff like that. But it holds. I feel like that holds a whole different passion with the love of it, with like the family starting off and growing up around it, getting out there at 6 years old, like you said. It's just a whole different ball game at that point. And
yeah, absolutely.
Where you've been now is just insane.
Like what we did. And then, of course, going back to the question of was that the only thing that we hunted, then, of course, goose hunting.
Right.
So that was the big transition was right after the late 80s into the early 90s, they started allowing us to take Canada geese. Because back in the late 80s, early 90s, Canada geese were on the extinct list,
right.
And they were protected. So when we started to get to shoot Canada geese, there was pretty good amounts of them that would migrate through Northwest Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget my first goose hunt in a field. Up until then, we would just shoot a couple of geese off the refuge wall here and there when they would fly by, never decoying anything. So it was just a pure luck thing.
Right.
The first time we got out into a field, though, and I remember I was 13 years old, laying there, frozen ground, burlap sack on me, and these geese locked up to come in. And the guys all sit up and shoot, and I just remember I didn't even shoulder my gun. I was so just taken back by the fact that those geese were so tricked. They were so fooled. They came in, feet down, 10 yards. And from that point on, that's pretty much where the obsession with Canada geese and goose hunting and the calling and the whole aspect that goes along with Canada goose hunting, that's where it all came in. And then we had big shift too. The refuges started to go into decline because of Phragmites taking over and cattails. So invasive species were taking over the marshes. There was, I wouldn't say mismanagement, but there just wasn't a lot of management going on, right? And then there was tough times. The recession was going on, and the government wasn't paying people to go do their jobs. And unfortunately, the DNR and the feds, those are the guys that do those management jobs. So when they're not getting paid, don't get me wrong, there's a passion, and a lot of people I know in those industries still worked, even though they weren't getting paid. But obviously, you can only do so much.
Right.
And so that decline in the refuges caused a lot of the ducks that would normally stop over to just basically keep flying through. And then the second thing that happened was right around the about 2010, 2012, they decided, because of the Toledo water crisis that we had and the poisoned water and microcystin and the algae bloom.
Right.
They decided that they no longer wanted the marshes to have any planted crops. So they wanted to basically take the black swamp and turn it back into black swamp. So all of the crops that used to be planted in the big refuge like Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge and McGee, those all were basically taken out, and everything that's native was put back in. And so,
because that was all like what the drainage from the fields, like dump it into the lake, and
basically during SAICH events, which are wind-driven water events where water rises and falls, they'll open the gates up and they'll allow that water to flow into the marshes, basically get filtered. And then as the water goes back down, they can open those gates up and they can let that water go back out nice and filtered. Phosphates and nitrogen levels a lot lower than if it was just a runoff into the lake. So
I don't know. I mean, we met in an absolutely crazy way, in my opinion. We started a page before the one that we have now, and I think you messaged us on Instagram, and I will never forget it because I was walking around Cabela's, and I forget who. I think I was with Trav, the guy that co-owns the Great Lakes page with me, and because I think it was college ball at maybe it was before that, right around that time anyway. But I always remember like how much things you were telling me, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're even talking about, and like just the passion that you have towards like waterfowl and goose hunting and calling and dog training is always just kind of, I don't know. I think a lot of people look at that from you and get motivated themselves with it all. And, I mean, like I said, it's just you have one of the most, that's not even the right word, but like you just have the most passion towards this than anybody I usually talk to. Well,
and I appreciate that. It's always cool that it's contagious.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It definitely is.
To be able to do something like that. And it's just what I love to do. And it's kind of crazy to me that, I'm just a guy out here doing what I love to do, and that so many people are captivated by that. It's really cool. I appreciate it. And that's why I like to share as much as I can. I try to always answer DMs and any questions that anybody posts to me on social media. And that, social media, that whole thing.
It's crazy. It's a pros and cons, I guess.
So many people that I've met, we've had this conversation multiple times, but it's good for certain things and it's bad on other aspects, but the majority of it has been good and a good experience for me as far as meeting people, getting invites, making memories with people, sharing that passion with each other, just getting out of your own backyard. The world is so much bigger than your backyard. I love to hunt Lake Erie, North Bay, South Bay, everything that surrounds this little area, Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan. And I've actually taken there's 41 species on the SLAM for North America, and I'm like at 32, all just right here.
And it's like a low key, like just
absolutely, like it's our own
amazing,
little secret, and it's really cool. But with that being said, when I used to go out to Illinois and guide, or when I've been out to the Chesapeake Bay, these places are amazing.
Right.
You need to experience them as hunters. Get out there. Like I said, the world is a lot bigger than your backyard. So.
How did you kind of brought up guiding, which, you know, I wanted to touch on. How did you kind of get involved with over there growing up in Ohio? How did you get involved with going over there and guiding? Guiding
was interesting. I was just at a point in my life where, you know, like just the crossroads. I think I was 30 years old. I was in between jobs and just struggling with what I wanted to do, who I was going to be, where I was going. But I had this 8-year-old lab, you know, and I had this passion to hunt, and I'm like, I just need to figure this out. How can I make this work? So I just Googled hunt clubs, and I took the first 100 hunt clubs, and I sent them all an email with basically a cover letter explaining to them who I was, how long I had been waterfowling, you know, my accessories, and also my skill set. And out of 100, I had 3 replies. And out of the 3 replies, I ended up working for 2 of those companies.
In the same area, or
okay, almost in the same area. They're actually 2 hours apart. So
not terrible though.
No, Mazonia Hunt Club was in Braidwood, Illinois, and the other one was Cabin Fever Hunt Club, located in Victoria, Illinois. So real close to the Twin Cities.
You kind of want to like touch on I guess the experiences or like the learning.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a huge curve on here to there.
Guiding is interesting, especially if you're someone who's super passionate about waterfowl hunting, because you're taking something that you really, really love, and now all of a sudden you're you know, making it a business, right? You know. So with that being said, the good part about it was every day in the office was, you know, you're over a spread.
Right.
You get to watch the sun come up.
New people every day.
The sun go down, new places, new faces every day. So that's cool. The negative sides of it are not everybody sees the resource like you do. So what we look at and what we respect, and you know, out of those animals, everybody else just looks at it as sometimes it's just a trigger pull. You know, just another thing that they can shoot the gun at, and I don't understand that, but
I mean, nowadays it's Instagram pictures, really.
It's part of how it is now. So, you know, that was one of the things that actually got me away from it.
Okay.
So, you know, just was I was losing the fun in hunting. So that was like the downside. But other than that, guiding is amazing. And if you're in areas that are just absolutely like migration corridors. So Braidwood, Illinois, for instance, if you watch any of the Fallen Sky videos that Foils did, basically 1 all the way through, I think, up to 13 or so, he has a hunt in Braidwood on almost every one. So that's how good Braidwood was in the 90s. It was literally, it was, to me, in my opinion, it was the Canada of the United States.
Well, I remember you telling me stories about when they first came down, they were pushing through just thousands and thousands. Like, the sky would turn black over how many geese would be pushing through.
My first grand passage I ever witnessed in my life was in Braidwood, Illinois.
Yeah.
And that was completely, up until that point, I'd only seen snow geese fly from sun up to sundown in the sky all day long. That was the first time in my life I had seen Canada geese do that all day long. It was incredible. I think 2013 was the year, and Braidwood Lake was holding 250,000 Canada geese, maybe plus. So it was.
I mean, that had to have been just.
Those were really good times, guys.
That's insane.
Those are some of the best times of my life.
But nowadays, though, that's you've talked about how it's
with the way that the weather is. Weather dictates migration. Unfortunately, for this northern tier, anybody that hunts from Minnesota all the way up into Ohio to maybe even Pennsylvania knows, if it doesn't get cold, it's not hot. Right. It's just not going to happen. The barrier is.
I guess you could say that all the way down, though, really, because if you don't have the weather north, birds down south aren't going on.
Well, people need to realize, too, that southeast Ontario is a big farm belt. and a lot of that used to be wetlands, and now it's all been turned into agriculture. So the birds literally run into this big food store right before they have to cross this big expanse of water. And if there's no reason to do it,
no
they're just not
pressure,
going
right,
to.
right.
And that's why you see some really good hunting in Southeast Ontario.
Right.
I mean, those guys really do awesome. And it doesn't matter what you want to shoot there: mallards, blacks, redheads, canvasback, Canada geese. They've got it all there. So,
Well, I mean, what's your opinion on like? I know they've done a lot of studies lately about the farm equipment getting like more. I mean, they're getting more advanced, I guess you want to say, leaving less crop on the ground. And it's a big reason why there's not a lot of birds in these places, this, that, and the other. I mean, kind of gotten any opinions on that? Like with birds sticking around just because there's agriculture out there, I mean, you got to have other resources as well for the birds to stick around.
At this point in time, my opinion on that is that birds have adapted to the way that we live so well that regardless of our mechanical processes, even if it leaves less grain, they're finding food sources.
Right.
That they're going to eat regardless. So I don't think that that's a big deal anymore. What really hurts us as goose hunters though is the nice big green pasture fields and stuff, and the ryegrass or just lawn grass, and those spots are usually
they're hard to come by now though.
And they're safe spots or safe havens or in the cities, and that's just where a lot of them birds flock to, especially if it's accessible. Right. If there's no snow on it, they're going to feed on that grass.
Well, especially on them September days, which we're getting super close to it. Yep. You put some, good north wind for yourself, and you're looking good. Them decoys are popping way better than anything else. What about like Illinois? Like now though, is it still as good as it used to be?
Illinois is pretty much, it's just not what it used to be at all, but it's specifically 100% directly the weather. Now, if Illinois gets cold, they have so much water that is surrounding them. They've got 3 or 4 rivers that surround them, and then in between these rivers and these bodies of water.
Now you're talking just where you were at, not to cut you off, but okay.
No, so just where I was at in Braidwood, there's also within, I think, about 15 square mile of each other in a triangle, there's 3 other nuclear lakes.
Okay.
So besides Braidwood, there's Dresden, and there's LaSalle, I believe it is.
So never freezes.
Correct.
Okay.
These are going to be 70 degrees year round,
yep.
right? And all winter.
Right.
So with that being said, those are basically what hold the geese when they migrate through, but everything else has to be frozen. And if they don't get cold for longer than, a month, that just doesn't happen anymore. And there's a lot of inner city stuff that's open retention ponds on these little residential areas, and a lot of the geese will just hang up there. They know the trick.
They're adapting almost, it seems like, just yeah.
And when I was in Illinois, some of the best spots to actually goose hunt when the migration wasn't good was right on the outskirts of city, gray areas for sure. Where I remember one time, I can't remember the exact city we were in, but there was a school across the street.
Really?
Yeah, and then apartments, pretty nice apartment complexes behind us, a nice house off into the distance that was being built, and we were shooting geese right there. And of course, we did get the cops called. They come out and check, just make sure everything was kosher. But yeah, that's what it is now. Like the good hunting is where.
Well, look at that field that you guys came up. I think was it you and Al? We shot those 45. So yeah, right there. But like you can literally see like the people like damn near changing in their apartment complex. Kroger's is right there across the street. Like the goose hunting around there is just unbelievable though.
Absolutely.
I mean, so Illinois, Ohio. Where else have you like hunted at?
Let's see. I've been to the Chesapeake, all over Michigan, all the way from the UP. All the way back down here southeast, went over to the west side of the state, and that's pretty much it. I haven't really got South Dakota.
I mean, I know you got trips coming this year.
Yeah, South Dakota's awesome. I'm gonna do Oklahoma this year, so that's new. I've got a plan to do maybe North Carolina for swan.
That'd be
with a buddy. So it's just a matter of time management, though. I would love to get a hunt in with Ramsey Russell.
Oof.
I mean, like look at what he's doing, and the truth of that too is that You know, when
I would almost not even shoot, just talk to them and learn.
You look at those hunts, and what you guys got to realize is that a lot of that's not going to be forever.
Right.
You know, I feel like with a lot of the things that are going on in South America and the different governments.
Was Australia's a big one right now?
Yeah, well, Australia, that's pretty much
it's gone. Right.
It's going to be that's they're fighting, for every right that they can have right now. So.
But I mean, he was talking about how big of an impact they could have on, what was it, us? He was talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on in Canada.
Yeah.
Oh.
Insane.
Mm-hmm.
Touching back on the guiding aspect, were you guys shooting with the clients, or were you guys just strictly calling the shot?
Illinois, we were shooting with clients, 100%.
Now, how was that compared to like back home? Because you're used to shooting, all the time. Then all of a sudden you go over to Illinois and no gun, or
no, we were shooting.
Oh, you were? Okay, absolutely. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
No, that's now when I guide at other spots though, we don't shoot, and it's just
right.
It's just first off, I always am polite enough to ask the clients if they want me to, join them. So it is their hunt.
Because some of them just get pissed right off.
Exactly, and that's why I always ask. Some guys are like, "Yeah, I don't want you shooting." Okay, no problem.
Right,
that's totally fine. I've had other groups that were like, "Oh, you better be shooting."
Yeah.
So it's 50-50 either way. But I would say the majority of the people in Illinois were like, go ahead, join us, please join us. And then there was just sometimes, I'll be honest with you, I would just say, "Hey guys, I'm just not going to shoot today. I just didn't want to take any birds."
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I almost feel like that sometimes too, though. Like you almost got to have a look back on what the season's been or what you've done and just enjoy the moment kind of thing and just take it all in. And I feel like a lot of people are just, like you said, just shooting to shoot, killing to kill. Mm-hmm. Granted, I mean, whether they eat it or not, I mean, I know heard stories that, people are just throwing them away or whatever it is, but it's like, how do you not just enjoy it and I mean, you should just be thankful for it all,
No, absolutely. I think that goes back to upbringing,
right?
And
100%.
How you were introduced into the sport. I think a lot of people get into it in the high school years, and what happens there is that you're usually going with a buddy, and the first time you go out, depending on how that buddy, respects the resource and just his whole etiquette as a hunter, that is going to pretty much rub off on you, especially if you've never done it before, because you're looking for that guidance. Mm-hmm. So that's just, I think that a lot of that comes down to that. I was blessed enough that my godfather was always adamant that if we were going to hunt it and kill it, that we were going to eat it. And that's why when I started to get older, we just stopped shooting the ducks that we weren't going to eat. That just was what it was. And, I mean, when you were younger, anything that came in the spread, go ahead. Mm-hmm. We're kids, we're having fun. Even if we would shoot,
that grew the passion too.
Yeah, right. Even if we, and we're not eating mergansers at all, but we would grind them up, and we had
dog food. Basically,
at the time, no way, dogs wouldn't even eat it. No, but we would grind them up, and we would add a specific powder to them. There was a time when my dad was really into these South American cichlids. They're called discus.
Okay, and
we would make them. We would make our food, their fish food, from merganser meat. Yeah. So that's how we would do it. Basically grind it down to a paste, mix it in with this little spirulina flake formula, and then we feed it to the fish.
No kidding.
That's how we got rid of our mergansers when I was a kid.
Holy smokes.
100%. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
But then, like I said, as we got older, we'd get those kind of birds come through, and we just let them sit in the decoys and be live action pretty much.
What, can you kind of, you probably can't remember because I remember first time ever seeing your lanyard, you can remember every single band on that lanyard and when you shot it, what happened on that hunt, but which we'll get into. But when you first started getting into the field hunting, and I want to kind of bring up the passion with the calling aspect, because I mean you're hands down one of the best callers I personally know, and have helped me through calling and just hunting in general. But what really got you into the passion with just the field, just that first flock that you said?
It was a little.
That's a long question. I'm sorry.
It was a little bit more than that. There was a gentleman that when I was coming up hunted with us. Mm-hmm. His name was Matt Rivera, and Mr. Matt. At the time, there was a transition between flute calls and like a short reed that was kind of like a flute. And I remember at the time, this was early 90s, a lot of the guys locally had these, Paul Kenyon was the call maker. He was out of Iowa, and he was making this goose call. And the first time I heard Matt blow this goose call, I literally looked at my dad and was like, he sounds like a real
Just
goose,
like,
you know,
yeah.
like it was unreal. And the season was out. I'll never forget. The season was out, and he called these 4 geese. We were on the refuge wall, and he called them, I mean, literally 10 feet over our heads. And they come screaming over, and I looked at my dad, and I'm like, I want to sound like that. I want, you know, I want what he's got going on.
Right.
So we went to Point Mouilly Waterfowl Festival, and we made with Mr. Matt, and we made a purchase on a goose call. And from that point on, I just tried to do everything I could to master, you know, goose calling or sound as much like a goose as I could. Well, then, so that's 93. Right around 2007 was when the short reed craze like started.
Really broke out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're transitioning now from these like a flute, and it's a total different mouth setup and totally different muscle memory, but there's basic mechanics that you still use
For sure. Yeah.
and we transition over in these short reeds. And so I'll never forget, I had a buddy that I hunted with, and he was just like, you're horrible. Like every time you blow that goose call, he was like, I want you to throw it out the window. And I'm like, but I sound no different than you and everybody else. And they were just, you know, they would always hate. And so I told myself, like, okay, we're going to show these guys. And so basically using that as fuel, I ended up buying, I think my first call that I totally, I would say, mastered was a zinc money maker. And I would sit in front of the TV watching zinc videos, listening to him call, pausing the DVD, rewinding it, trying to make those notes, right? And then, of course, the YouTube starts to get going, and also Scott Trinan had bad grammar at the time. So I'm taking in as much information on how to play this instrument as possible. And that's basically that. A culmination of that over the years has gotten me to where I'm at right now. You know, contest calling, I tried it a couple times, and what I realized was that I just really wasn't ready to step on stage. You know, it's a humbling experience. You go up there to have fun.
It's a whole different game. It's an art.
You go up there to have fun, and then you realize when you get smoked, you're like, okay, well, we got to go back to the drawing board. You got to be able to do the certain things that the guys that are up here are doing on a consistent basis. So from there, it's just been me practicing on my own, perfection on my own, and I don't know if I'll ever blow contests again. I would love to, but you know, it just depends. You know, there's all the time involved in all that.
No, for
Putting
sure.
together a routine and all that. You know, so
I mean, and you know, you go further with that. I mean, you're blowing best guys in the world or the country. You know, that's insane.
I think the one reason why I'd even want to start contest calling is just to make more friends.
Camaraderie of it, yeah, right.
And also learn. You know, when you go up, when you're competing with the best of the best, the only thing you can do is either, you know, sit there and take the whooping, or raise your level to that level. Right. And so, you know, that the cool thing about going up against people that are better than you is it's going to make you better. So.
Well, and I feel like the biggest thing is, which a lot of people, and I preach it all the time, being able to like just talk to somebody, even if they're better, they got a name to themselves, whatever it may be, just reaching out and talking and asking for help. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to talk to somebody and ask questions, because YouTube and Instagram and social media just in general, sometimes they don't always have those specific answers that you're looking for. And, you know, the bond from the people that you meet with the calling contest. I mean, I hear stories all the time on how tight-knit those people are with each other, like just like a family, basically. And that's one thing that, you know, I'm not looking for the calling contest, but something that I would like to experience like that, just close of a group, family, however you want to talk about it wise,
Yeah, and something that, again, that goes back to coming into this, I think earlier in the game than most people is my circle. It's ever expanding. Don't get me wrong, but the people I hunt with the majority of the time, it's the same people all the time, and that's just. I don't want to say that I'm not up to hunting with other people and things like that, but it's just you get comfortable with a group of guys.
Everybody knows their roles in the morning. That's the same way with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, that's I think that goes unsaid that when you find your crew, you like to stick with them.
And from, one of very few people that know what I've been through with the crews. I mean, it takes a while to find that right crew to roll with. You know what I mean? You're going to go through ups and downs, but you just can't get discouraged with what's going on. You got to get it for yourself and roll with it.
There's so many variables that go into hunting, but I would say the number one thing that will turn me off anytime that I meet somebody new is improper gun etiquette.
That's a big one. If you
just are really goofy with your firearm and playing with safeties, and I don't care for you to
especially with dogs.
Absolutely, be around me, be in a blind with me. I just don't.
That's our biggest thing. Like if Ellie's out there, Rip will be out there this year and stuff, and if dogs break, obviously I'll have them tied down, but just in case kind of thing. I never want to be not careful with it because they get excited just like we do. And if you can't control, like if the dog breaks and you can't control not shooting, like I don't want you out there. If you're shooting on top of someone's head, I don't want you, it's kind of just one of those things where just pick your lane and go with it. Don't get too overworked up on that.
Accidents.
They do happen.
They do. And that's so... It's like to sit there and watch people being purposely foolish. It's like, okay. I've actually witnessed a slam fire before. So twice in my life where someone
I've seen once,
just closing the action of the gun and boom, there it goes off. So, having the barrel in a safe direction all times, just double checking everything, just being safe, just not, I don't know.
Do you think the thing is, I don't know, I feel this way, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like people look at it as like the BB kind of aspect of it and not as like a not a rifle in their hands or a slug in there, and they kind of just are like whatever kind of with it.
Yeah, wrong aspect to have.
You know what I mean, though? I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, this ain't, whatever. But
no, you should be looking at it like this. Once that gun discharges, can you take it back?
Right.
That's how I don't care what you could be shooting a Nerf gun.
Exactly.
If you shoot somebody in the eye with a Nerf gun, they're probably going to have a high possibility that they're going to be having a damaged eye.
I think
it's a Nerf gun.
My grandma, we were just messing around in the living room, and I want to say it was my grandma. She got hit in the eye, broke a bunch of blood vessels. I mean, there was no damage, thankfully, at the time, but it could have been. Could have been very easily.
100%.
Very easily.
Yep.
Let's bring up some dogs, I guess, since we kind of got on the topic with it.
Okay.
What you want to bring up? Well, you got Nix.
Nix, Kaya,
that was
Cody.
the one.
Yep.
That was the one. So you want to talk about your first? Cody was the first one.
Cody was my first dog. My first real hunting dog. My dad bought him for me when I was 13. Under the rule that he was my dog and I would be responsible for him. So I was to take him to training.
Trying to teach you something with it.
Yeah, I was taking him to training. I had an agreement with the dog trainer that I would show up every day with the dog, and not only would he train my dog, he was going to train me as well.
How old were you at the time?
I was 13.
13.
So I would basically just ride my bike over. Funny story. The first time I went to training, I rode my bike and I took Cody with me on a leash, and it's about it's like I'd say a mile and a quarter maybe just through the park to the trainer's house. And we showed up and he come outside and he's like, "Did you ride all the way over here with the dog?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, we're not going to train today." So
dog's already tired enough.
Yeah, that was the first lesson I got was, he said, "Have your mom drop you off next time." So that's how that went. And, but he was my first dog. He's Chesapeake Bay, and he was a he was a monster. All I can say about that dog was he had an amazing nose, and he marked like no other dog that I have ever owned. I think in my life with him, I had him till I was 18, 13 to 18. And from that time span, I bet you I lost maybe 5 birds with that dog.
Really?
Maybe.
I mean, were you guys shooting a lot of numbers at that time?
And no, it was just one of those things.
I mean, still, it's insane for that many, how many years?
So this is how good he was. I remember one time we were at a public spot and we were shooting some mallards. I killed this duck and he brought it back, and I rung its neck. I put it next to me in the blind, and some more birds were coming. So I'm sitting there calling and I'm working, and birds flare off or do whatever they do. They don't end up committing. I look down next to me, and this duck is gone. And I'm like, oh no. So I could see the trail that it took, through the weeds and whatnot. Well, I just called Cody over and was like, dead bird, fetch it up. I don't know where he went, but he come back with the bird. So I mean, that's how awesome he was. Multiple times, like I said, we would hunt the refuge wall, and the rule is on the federal refuge in Ohio that you can go behind the no trespassing signs without a firearm and with your dog to retrieve a downed bird. Just don't go in there with your firearm. So I can't tell you how many times we would shoot passing ducks coming off the lake going into the refuge that would land in the refuge, and we would just tell him, dead bird, boom.
Right.
And he'd bring the bird back every time. So he was awesome. Unfortunately, when I was 18, he went missing, and when I found him 3 days later, he was floating in the lake, man. So yeah,
I never heard.
I don't know what ever happened, but everything happens for a reason. I don't know why it had to be that way, but it was, and so I just I think about the time I had with him and enjoy all that, because it was really awesome.
Well, because I know that one story. I mean, he had to love the water, because the one story that you guys left him home. You remember that story that you told me? I think it was you and your dad left him home, and all of a sudden, here he comes swimming across the bay.
Oh, no. So what happened was, I wasn't involved this day.
Oh, okay.
Dad,
That's my fault.
he left Cody at home in the backyard, and he decided he was going to go perch fishing. So from where we lived at the time out to the lighthouse, the Harbor Light in Toledo, it's a pretty good boat ride. I would say probably 2 miles, 3 miles from shore.
I mean, no hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, this is a swim. And my dad tells the story as he said there was this log, and it kept getting closer, and it kept getting closer, and he said finally it got to a point where it was about 100 yards, and he looked at it and he goes, "That's not a stinking log. That's my dog." And he said he doesn't know how he made it out there, because when he picked him up, he had to pull him into the boat, and he didn't even stand up.
Oof.
He said the dog was totally trashed, probably was on the verge of drowning, but made it all the way out there where my dad was perching.
Just stubborn old dog right there.
Just was like, "You're not going to leave me." So couldn't believe that dog had jumped the fence and watched him
the entire time
drive out there and then make that mark and then start swimming.
It just, yeah, exactly. Had that trust in that. I mean, he could have turned a certain way, could have done something.
Dog was amazing. So
that's nuts.
Yeah, rest in peace, Cody, man. He was an awesome dog.
I mean, I know the dogs are a touchy subject.
No.
Well, I mean, it's a but bringing into like the Kaya, I mean, the stories that I've heard about that dog in itself too.
Yeah, Kaya is unique because she came about in my life from 20 until about 34, 35. So she was involved with everything from post high school all the way up to like my second born child.
She's been through everything with you.
She was there for everything, and she was not only a hunting dog and an amazing hunting dog at that, but she was everything else you want out of a dog. She was your best friend, go anywhere with you. Honestly, she was so well-mannered that if I put her on a leash, she hated it. She would throw fits. So I had to take her to waterfowl festivals without a leash on.
Just walk around.
And people would come up to me and say, your dog needs to have a leash on. And I would tell them, I basically had her e-collar on. I'd be like, well, she got a leash on. And,
right.
they're like, no, it needs to be physical. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, a cop will shoot you with a taser and you can't move. So this is about the same thing with this little button right here. But I go, she'll never need it. But anyways, I always, that was, to me, I always took that as the greatest compliment. I had a guy from a dog trainer one time. We were at Marengo for the waterfowl duck camp. I can't remember what year it was, like 2008. And this dog trainer came up to me and he said, man, I just want to let you know, you have a wonderful dog. He's like, you spent a lot of time with her, huh? And I said, almost every day. He's like, man, you can just tell. She never paid. Other dogs would be tugging their owners away, trying to get at her, and she just never even paid them any attention. It was always just about me and her. She was in her own little world with me, and I absolutely love that. Yeah, that one, Cody was hard because we lost him and we didn't know why. Kaya was hard because we lost her, and she was everything to us.
Right.
So
the best friend. I mean, like I said, gone through everything with you, the kids. I mean,
she was, and not
heartache,
just to
whatever
me.
it was
to everybody, to my whole family, to my wife. So yeah, she was a big deal, and she still is missed very much to this day. So
that's how I almost feel like with Ellie. Ellie. I was working with her a lot when she was younger. She's a very, I'll say, soft but driven at the same time kind of dog. Like, she's not like a Nix per se, obviously, but like she knows what to do, but she's going to be kind of lazy about it, whatever it is. She gets the job done, and I've slacked a lot in, the last 2 years, I'd say, with really getting down and working with her. But, yeah, same thing. It's just like that time frame when you get the dog and you go through a lot of things with the dog, and that dog's always going to be there for you. Because, I mean, you didn't really work that much with Nix, did you? Or with Kaya, did you?
Oh, Kaya was, that was every day. Like,
oh, it was?
Sometimes like twice a day. No, Nix, the dog I have now, is the one that pretty much, I had to substitute my time with her with trainers.
Right.
Because I've got children and I've got that life. And that's, that's one of the downsides to, as you get older and you start to have more of a life and then you want a hunting dog. I think a lot of guys need to understand that that's a huge, huge commitment. I can't tell you how many times these guys would show up to the to when I was guiding to the hunts, and they would have these dogs and talking about how their dog does this and their dog does that. But this is the dog's third hunt of the year.
Yeah.
And this guy's wanting his dog to do 300-yard blinds and
hasn't worked all summer with it.
And then they're screaming at the top of their lungs, oh, this dog and this dog this and this dog that, and you're just kind of like taken aback, as someone who's doing this every day, and you're just laughing to yourself inside, but you're watching these people make fools of themselves when the reality is if you would have just spent more time with your animal, or hunted more with your animal, then the communication errors wouldn't be there, because that's what it is. When your dog's doing something that's unfavorable, it's because it's something that you're doing that's triggering that, or lack thereof that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, and I feel like a lot of the guys now, where they watch these videos, these amazing dogs and whistle trained and, hand signals and all that other stuff, they buy a lab, they think it's just going to come natural to the dog because it's, their parents were that way, so the dog should already know that. And it's like, you got to put that work in and actually
you do
get with it.
And to have a dog that has that naturally, I feel like that's I don't know if that's an everyday thing.
Right.
Like you can go to good bloodlines. I do believe that's key for
sure.
A good
Hips
dog.
And yeah.
But to have a dog that some dogs retain their teachings very well, and other dogs, it has to be repetitious all the time. Kaya and Cody were the dogs that remembered everything, and I rarely had to work with them after the first couple seasons.
Almost they're smarter than you in a sense.
Nix is one that, and I don't feel like she's forgetting. She's just a little bit more stubborn. She's just that go-getter, though, too. You know what I mean? She just wants to run. And my one trainer said it perfect. He said she's a Ferrari with no brakes.
Yeah, you can bring them up. Tri-State, we're going to have them on and stuff like that, because that's where they're at, right? Or no?
Yeah, she's at Tri-State right now. Correct. Yeah.
Hopefully they come back on. We had them in here once. And, but, yeah, that she's the most driven dog that I've
Dustin
seen.
and Hunter do great work. And you know what? Here's the crazy thing about her is she is not from bloodlines. She is.
Oh, really?
She is basically. So I had a male lab. Remember Ace? He was a non-hunt dog.
Mm-hmm.
He was a gift to my wife from family member, and he was a great dog, great hips and eyes and everything. A wonderful looking dog. So just based on that alone, there was a girl at the local pet store that had a dog.
I remember this now.
That had a lot of drive like Kaya. This really like this will to retrieve and please.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if these two dogs got together, it'd probably make a good puppy, and I wouldn't have to spend money on a dog. Well, I asked her one day if she was willing to make that happen, and she was all about it. So we had her dog, Hips and Eyes, my dog, Hips and Eyes, and we did it, and that's where Nick's
first
came
pick,
from.
right?
Yeah.
First
So
pick
that's what I did, just pick a litter, and that's where Nick's came from. So
I remember that now.
and it's worked out wonderful for me. But I can tell you this, that I've got a lot of money invested in her.
Oh yeah.
So and I think that'll be with any dog, and it's not only in the dog too. If you're using a trainer, it's an investment in yourself as well.
Well,
Especially
that's
if you're going to training sessions with the dog. You teach yourself to train your dog so you don't have to pay for it anymore.
Well, that was the big thing when we had Hunter and Dustin in here. That how is the dog like adapting? I guess per se from you guys training him all the time, and then the owner never around, and then you give him back to the owner. That owner's got to keep up with all that training, and you can't just think that the dog's gonna be perfect the rest of the year when you're only going out 3 or 4 times a year, whatever the case may be.
When we did hand signals, for instance, there was a month that went through with the trainers, and then there was a month where I had to show up and start working with her, so that there was a transitional phase. So, and it was not only the dog taking commands from me, but me understanding how the dog was taking commands from the trainer.
Exactly.
So he's going to do it a certain way. You need to emulate that.
You can't have a release word this, and then the trainer's doing another thing.
You can't even move your hand a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Everything should be almost identical. And that way you keep the communication open.
Exactly.
When you start to do oddball stuff, and you're not setting a dog, and then you're trying to be quick, and don't get me wrong, we get it, because we got birds coming in, and birds are down, and you're
grabbing birds, grabbing a call.
We're not in a big migration area. I get it. You get a window to shoot birds, but when you're doing that, that's when you're messing up your dog at the same time, because you're allowing him or her to do the things that normally that's not how we do it in training. So
exactly.
And then when it's repetitious, then that becomes muscle memory to them too. So
because for me it sucks, because we'll send Ellie out, she starts running out there, and all of a sudden over the trees here comes some more geese, and it's like, what do? We let her get it, or it's just it's.
Usually in those cases too, I'll let the dog get it, and the reason being is when the geese are coming with a black dog running through your spread, it almost looks like a live action decoy.
Which I have been terrible with.
Until you're blind and give you the bird back, but
right.
But as long as everybody else is hiding, I'll take the dog running back with a bird. That's okay, But if everybody else is out in the spread and your dog's running around picking up, obviously, and you got birds coming, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's I have been guilty of bringing her back, and then she's getting confused, and I'm like thinking in my head at the time, because just like you said, like once it happens, and like you're just thinking so quick, and you just want to get it done, and then it's just
and sometimes you just got to slow down.
Right.
Call them back and just kennel them, and let the next wave of geese come in, and like as well as I do. If they come in and they finish, then everything's okay. And if they come in and flare, then that they're flaring off the birds that you just probably took, and get out there and get them cleaned up as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Get back in.
And that's what we try to tell everybody before the hunts and stuff. We got dogs out. Obviously if they do break, whatever it is, depending on whose dog it is. Well, I mean, not depending on whose dog it is, but any dog that breaks, no more shooting. Don't care if what's out there. Nobody's shooting. The dog might burn a flock or two. It's just going to be one of those things today, and go from there. If you don't like it, then you know where your truck's parked, and you can get out of here, really. Sure. You know what I mean? Sure. It's just
and that's cool that you even offer that, because some people would get mad that they come out to hunt and then your dog's breaking.
Well,
you didn't say anything about your dog breaking, bro, and you're like, no, I do.
Yeah,
so,
it's right.
And that's fair, honestly. As a good dog owner, it's fair to tell people, hey, my dog might break. I just want you to know. So, and then that's always in the back of everybody's head.
The safety of that dog is huge. And I can't stand even the videos of like people shooting over their dogs and the dog's out in the decoy still and there's birds dropping in and they're shooting right above them.
We've been guilty of it too, man. And it happens, just like you said, getting caught up. I would say the best thing you can do right now is they've got that quick release system now that they just released.
That's what we have. Yeah.
I think that's if anybody has a problem with your dog breaking, that's going to be a great tool to reinforce.
Gun Dog has that? Yeah, that's what we have.
And it makes sense. And then, like I said, remember these dogs, they're learning repetition, right?
Exactly.
So if you have him or her chained up like that and they break, it's only going to be a matter of what, maybe a half a dozen times before the dog's like, okay, I can't run through this. So I'm going to wait now for my command. And therefore you're, reinforcing the sit or the stay or whatever your command is, and they're not breaking. Or you hope that leads to them not breaking.
And that's a big thing too, even in the training aspect of it all. Obviously, we're both not trainers, but I mean, we kind of have an idea of what's going on.
Well, you know what we know what we want from our dogs,
and that's a huge thing too. You know what I mean? But if you're out training, and I was telling Trav the other day because he came a couple of weeks ago, but he came in. We were out training the dogs, working the dogs. If that dog jumps, I'm letting that dog sit there 2-3 times, and I'll walk out there myself and get it to slow him down or her down, and have them understand that that's not just their bird. Like you have to,
have to earn it.
Right, exactly.
That's a reward.
With good, yeah, exactly. It's a reward. That's the biggest thing. Just
take the reward away. That's right. And usually that works. So it's just being conscious of that. So
it's big.
Like I said, when you're out hunting, it's just really easy to let the dog just keep doing what it's doing because, like I said, the flight's on, and you're just trying to maximize your time when that flight's on. You want to get your limit and you want to get out of there. So it's one of those things.
Did you guys use a lot of dogs in like Illinois or guiding aspect of it?
First couple of years in Illinois, Kaya went with me every year, and then I retired her right around 12. So then there was a couple seasons I went out there with no dog.
Now, how was that with like towards a client? So you ever have problems with like clients and
no, they loved her.
That's
absolutely
good.
Yeah, I mean I would say that that's the number one thing that if you are a guide and you have a good dog, man, you got a conversation piece for the whole day.
Right.
There's not
people petting a dog all day. Yeah,
man. Yeah. And also the compliments that come along with having a good dog. You never get sick of it because it's a lot of hard work to have a great dog. And when people tell you it was a pleasure hunting with your dog,
makes you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. 100%. Kind of going back on it. I don't think we touched it. Getting into the field hunting aspect, we talked about the calling and the passion with the calling and everything. But like, what really got you into fields? Because you hunt the water a little bit here and there, but like it seems like your true passion is the field.
I touched on it a little bit, and it just was the transitional time there in the mid '90s where the marshes weren't really supporting the duck numbers that they used to.
Okay, that's right.
So we just basically transitioned over into goose hunting, and as you guys all know, the majority of goose hunting, especially in the wintertime, is going to be feeds and dry land. So that's where I started to transition over to doing that. And then we also, at the same time, we sold our boat, so we didn't have any access to the water anymore. We had our own public ramp. We sold that property, so we didn't have a place to launch, or I should say private, not public. But we didn't have a place to launch. Just that was. And it was a unique spot because we could launch even when certain things might be locked up. So so we lost that, and it just and then a lot of things change. I lost my godfather, and when that happened, my dad decided that he just didn't want to hunt as much as he used to with his best friend, and as much as that hurts me because I still, don't get me wrong, it's not like he quit. We still do get to go out, but albeit not as much as I would like him to.
Right.
And but when that all happened, that's pretty much when he was like, I just want to sell the boat. And looking back, I was young and not thinking I should have just bought it. Like, well, I'll buy it, but I didn't. I was heavy into goose hunting. I bought the trailer. I had it filled with decoys and things like that. So that's just where I was at with it. So
I think I get to hunt with your dad once. It was at the golf course, I think it was. And a couple other guys. But I think the best hunt that I've been on with you was the one down there in Ohio where you had literally nobody knew like anybody else in the blind. I feel like this was like one of like many times or one of very few times that you do this, because like you said and I said, we have our own crews. But that day there was like, I knew 2 or 3 people that entire time.
You know,
but afterwards it's like a whole thing.
That hunt is so special to me because looking back, you know, so much could have not happened.
For sure.
So it was really cool that half of you guys drove from probably close to an hour or more away to join me on that hunt. That's just that right there. That hunt is that's the power of social media hunt.
For sure.
Every person that I met or that was on that hunt, except for Alan and Jordan.
Was Brad? You knew Brad from, or no? Social media as well.
No, okay. So Brad too. Brad I met through my buddy Blake.
Okay.
So I knew those 3, but all you guys I had met off of.
And we had 10.
Yep, and we had 10 guys, and we shot, and that was It was 3-man limit back then. So 30 birds.
Yeah.
Yep.
In 3 flocks or something like that.
Oh goodness,
It was insane though. It was like it literally took like
and then even
half hour, 45 minutes.
And how the whole hunt finished too. Remember, we needed 3 birds.
And the 3-pack came in.
A 3-pack came in right off the roof. So I mean, you can't script it any better than how that day went. And I'm glad that everybody got pictures, everybody got videos from that day. Yeah, man, that's a special one to me. That just doesn't happen that often, and it definitely doesn't happen with a group of strangers like that. Usually those hunts are just the guys that, well, not only that, it's just that it's so random. You know, when I'm hunting with my guys every day, the opportunities for us to have those type of hunts, you know, we're doing every day, so it's like lotto, you know, you're playing and you got more opportunity to win. To just invite all you guys from the corners like that and everybody show up and then it played out, man, I couldn't ask for anything else. I was very, very blessed that day. And those pictures, and that's all up on Instagram. And that was, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I just came across that video of like one of the flocks coming in, and it's just like looking back at that was just insane. Because I think it was that year you met Hunter. That year, was it? In the marsh.
Yeah.
And that's how we got to know Hunter and Dustin. And I mean, just like you said, power of social media and where Hunter, that goes.
Hunter, I met working. He was working at like the bird conservatory over at Maumee Bay State Park, and he had said something. I was there with my daughter, just looking at the stuff mounts and the things that they have in this place, and he's like, "Oh, that's a nice jacket." I had my Delta wading jacket on. I'm like, "Oh yeah, right on." And I walk outside a little bit afterwards, and he was leaving, and he was getting in the back of it, or he was getting in his truck, and in the back of his truck was 2 Gunner kennels, and I'm like, oh, "Those are some nice kennels, bro." You know? And so I guess it was just meant to be, because nothing happened from that point. And then, like 2 days later, he's getting gas at the gas station by me, and I'm just like, "Hey, man, you on social media? Blah blah blah." And he's like, "Yeah." And that was it. We hooked up just through that.
The first time you guys hunted, you guys banged them too, I remember.
Yeah, he was like, "You ever go to Mallard?" Or, well...
Yeah, no, you're all right.
So he's like, "You ever go out to your spots?" I'm like, "Yeah, we go there." And he's like, "Well, let's try a shoot there." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I don't hunt it too often, but it's been pretty good. Let's go give it a go." So it was me, him, and his dad, and Dustin went too.
Okay.
And no, wait. No,
that morning, I think it was just you two.
It was, yeah, you're right. That morning was just us two, correct? And yeah, we did. We limited pintails, gaddies, a couple mallards, and we had the dogs too. And the dogs worked phenomenal. That was another just a great hunt on public land too.
You just never know what to really expect though, with like the new guys and like people that don't know each other, and you hope everything's gonna work out between everybody. And
you get to a certain age,
you get a lot of young guys on that one hunt though.
You get to be a good judge of character.
For sure.
And even with you younger guys, I feel like I've been around the block long enough now, like just the way you guys talk and how you represent yourselves, I can pretty much know whether I want to hang out with
I get
you
that.
or not.
I get that.
You know? So, but I mean, all of you guys, the younger crews that you guys are all in your 20s, you guys have been amazing people to hang out with and hunt with. And even though I'm older, I think it's cool that you guys accept me as, you know, someone that can come hang out with the younger group of guys, you know, so it's not always that easy.
Right.
You know?
No, it's just like I said before, though. It's just one of those things where, you know, you talking about something and it's like it hits that something clicks for me, and it's I want to learn more about that. I want to learn more about this. Like when I first started out hunting, I mean, we knew each other for I feel like 2 years or so until you finally came up for a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But even just from there, like you would talk about like the hides or the spreads or whatever it is, and you know, taught me a lot towards it all with the videos or who to like look for out there, like their social media and what they're doing. And, yeah, it was just something that, like I said, I always wanted myself to grow off of that.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you'll get there too. It's just, it's a matter of doing it for so long.
Yeah.
You know, you hunt for so long, you start to, you know, I was talking about people's mannerisms and how they speak and things. Same thing with the birds. You start to learn their mannerisms, how they respond to calls, little tips in the wings. Just, I mean, a duck doing a left or a right dip, and I know, you know, what it's going to do. I know what call to make. And with the geese, the same thing.
Yeah.
So it just comes with time. So, but I'm always, you know, I love to share insight, you know, anything to increase anybody's success rate, because that's what it's all about. You know, I don't care really how people hunt geese, but if you ask me for, you know, my opinion, I'll let you know. No problem.
No, for sure. And, you know, I definitely see that too for yourself. It's just, I think a lot of people aren't willing to put in the time out in the field or look for the birds or whatever, and they don't want to go through that struggle like everybody does to be successful at it. They just, I mean,
it's work, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't want to do it nowadays, you know.
You know, I'll say this: there is nothing worth doing in this life that is easy.
Right.
So if you want to be one of those guys, and I've never said this on here before, but you know, you've heard me say this. 80-20 generation. Okay. And this is where 80% of the game or 80% of the hunters are going to be the ones taking the game. And then there's 20% that are just going to be the ones that are just going to, like, you know, get the leftovers. And if you want to be a part of that 80%, the guys that are going out and making good harvest, then you have to put the time in.
I almost feel like it's the other way around, though. It's like that 20% that people are like really doing good and putting that time in, and you know, there's just not a lot of people that like. It's like pulling teeth for people scouting nowadays, even or getting permission or what, you know, putting.
You know, those guys I'll just forget about. Really,
no, for sure. I get that.
If you can't put time in, then, you know, it's just one of those things. You're no different than anything else in this life. Like the people you work with and all that. If those people aren't contributing, you're just gonna shy away from this. Now, it's no hate or anything. It's just you're gonna do it different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just how I've always been. I've always wanted to do it, if I was going to do anything, to the best of my ability. So when I wanted to goose hunt and duck hunt, even though the gentlemen that I grew up around weren't the best at blowing calls or setting decoy spreads or even scouting, I learned all that coming up, and then made sure that I honed those skills so that when I go out, I can be successful at being a hunter.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. There's so many different people that look at it and don't understand it and don't have the drive or passion towards it all. And it's like that podcast that you told me to listen to, which I really enjoyed. There's not enough anymore. You know what I mean? It's slowly declining, whether you see it or not. And, you know, it sucks because it's hard to find people with the passion like that you have or that I have, and trying to teach people how to do it. And it kind of goes back to communication, like for reaching out to people and
Yeah, it's just
growing.
it's very odd these days. Is all I can say. With all the issues with our food, and
That's
how
a big
it's
thing.
how it's prepped and made and grown and all that. It blows my mind that people would be against going out and harvesting their
Your
own
own,
wild game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That we can go down a whole deep rabbit hole about that, but I just want to say that because it doesn't make any sense to me. And then the crazy thing is the people that I've come in contact with in my life that don't hunt, but are still close to me, over a period of time, as they've known me, I'll start to bring things around. Some goose salami,
Right.
some
And I
duck
love it.
poppers,
I love it.
and they're blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Not love it. They're absolutely blown away. Oh my goodness. Can you make this all the time? Blah, blah, blah. And these are people that are usually, like I said, they're anti-2A and they're anti-hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start to show them like, hey, this is viable. This is not, we're not just out here. It's not just out here to slaughter fest and
exactly.
throw everything away. We're actually we're going to turn around and we're going to prep this meat. We're going to feed ourselves and our friends and family. It goes full circle. They start to see, okay, their mind was a little closed off.
Well, I've been flipped off before. Just everything, like walking down the road and people honking horns back and forth. I mean, you've heard all the stories that I've been through, but
absolutely. And it's hit or miss where you're at.
Location is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So
sure.
you definitely you'll have a lot more of that hunting around suburban areas than you will off into the countrysides. But
100%.
It's just it's part of the deal. You just as hunters, I think the main thing is to keep your cool. Okay, and
if you're not doing wrong, know that.
Keep your cool and just state facts to people, and that's it. And if it gets to a point where it's just you can't talk to people, then don't talk to them.
Yep.
That's okay to not talk to somebody that's being rude and verbally violent to you. Just shut up.
Exactly. You're in the right. You're supposed to be in that field or on the water.
So I hate to see it, but unfortunately, social media has brought that a lot to the forefront, and it's like you see guys arguing back and forth, and I just think to myself, here comes a guy that's gotten no key points or any logic. He just wants to come out and yell at these hunters, and then the hunters engage him. Like, no,
just go back after it.
Like just
don't put fire on the.
Absolutely,
don't put wood on the fire.
Keep your mouth shut. Do the proper things. Call the DNR. Call the police or whatever you have to do, and let them handle it. That's their job. So.
Oh, I agree with that. Someone that you kind of look up to in the industry, or you grow from, or inspire to be like, or is there anybody that you're?
Yeah, for sure. Two people that were key in who I became as a goose hunter would definitely be Fred Zink. Let's go three people. One would be Fred. Two would be Jeff Foils. And number three would be Scott Trinan. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to leave Tim Grounds out of this, but you have to understand when I was growing up, Tim was just a little bit ahead of my time, and I just didn't know
enough at the time.
Right. And looking back now that I know everything, Tim actually was the one that got
everybody into it.
All three of those gentlemen into the industry.
Yeah.
But I say I always looked up to those guys because before hunting was big business like it is now, because it wasn't like this. Hunting was just something people did and enjoyed, and there wasn't all these call makers, there wasn't all these decoy manufacturers, there wasn't anything like now you can get 20 different pairs of waders. That there was Cabela's.
Yeah.
That was it. Super Mags, 1600, neoprene, 3 mil, 3.5 mil, or 5 mil.
September during teal season.
This is it, man. But now it's such a big business. When those guys were coming out with the videos, man, they were rock stars. I never missed a Cabela's Waterfowl Festival that Fred was at. And when he was at Marengo, I never missed any of that. I would go out to his call shop just to look at pictures and talk to those guys and hang out and just shoot the bull. I've met Fred a couple times. He's awesome. I've never personally met Jeff Foyles or Scott Trinan, but once again, it was what they were doing that always captivated me. Scott was one of those guys that when he blew a goose call,
you knew it.
Man, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. And to me, at that point in time, no one was making sounds like he was on a short read at all, period. And when you watch Goose Society #1, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because, I mean, this guy's breaking down geese that are in the stratosphere, and they're coming all the way down to the lids of the pits. And when you see stuff like that, you realize the power that you can wield with a short read if you can talk the talk. And from that point on, it was like I needed to make those sounds, those quick spits, and they needed to be hyper fast, and then they need to be hyper slow. You need to be able to control tempo, up, down. Those are things that geese do naturally, and if you can emulate that, then you're going to be more successful.
And that's the whole thing with like being able to read the birds too, though, which will come in time. But you have to have understanding of that and know what to look for and when to look for it.
Absolutely, and timing of season too.
Right.
Are we hunting local birds? Are we hunting the migration?
Yeah.
Am I going to be traffic calling? Where you're just basically rolling sound out of that thing, or are we on some local birds that like we need a couple.
And that's it. They're
nice
coming.
Clucks.
They know where they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
knowing your hunt again, that's all stuff that I learned through watching, Scott's videos. Man, like they're wonderful.
No, Scott had I just heard this the other day, but he was in a contest. He came back. I think it was like after he retired, so he came back out of retirement for the contest. But he did some noise. You remember that or no?
No.
I forget what it was. I wish I would remember that, but. No idea. But speaking of like the festivals and stuff like that, we got Bay City. This probably drop after Bay City's festival, but you got Bay City and then like Point Malay, and it's like every year they're like slowly declining.
Well, unfortunately for me, the past 2 years, I've not been able to attend either one, and that's because of job obligations. This year, it doesn't look like Bay City is going to be in the cards for me because it's too far of a drive. And
for you, it's probably, 3 hours?
It's almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just too far to go up there and hang out and then come back home. And if I was going to stay a weekend, I got family, and it just doesn't work out that well. But Point Muyi this year, I'm definitely looking to hopefully show up to that. You say that, I don't know, man. I get mixed feedback on that.
I just feel like the vendors and stuff and the because like I feel like the so many people are shopping online now and they don't like
no absolutely
go out
100%. I'm going to agree with you on that 100%. But I think that what people need to realize if these festivals are going to continue and you want them to grow, you have to show up.
Exactly.
Like it just is what it is. Support, and that goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning, where waterfowl, even though there's a season for it, you should be into waterfowl 24/7. You should be going to these festivals, supporting these events, because
don't just sit there and complain about what's going on.
The hunters are lacking. We're not there in the numbers anymore, guys. I mean, like, look at the push to take our firearms away.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you guys, this is like the simplest way you can support hunting on a grassroots level is showing up to these events and just taking your kids, getting them involved, taking your dogs. That's definitely what's going to keep this alive. I like to see the push for calling more. I see a lot of the bigger names and some of the professional callers are like, "Hey man, let's start to make calling contests cool again." I agree.
So yeah, the online stuff.
I agree.
And,
I think that's cool. And even if it's online, that's okay.
For sure, it's still getting people involved with
it.
Right.
Let's just do it. And I just anything with this is good.
I just think it's crazy though. I mean, like there's so many people like Point Malay, like it's so many people for years now. They're saying how bad it is and this, that, and the other, and they need to make a difference for it. Well, they need to do it themselves. I mean, like,
it's bad because you guys aren't going.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, like show up and or volunteer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Volunteer
100%.
your hand and help out. You know that Monroe chapter DU is one of the biggest benefactors to the DU in all of North America. It's pretty incredible. So you have this community of people in Monroe, Michigan, that are all about waterfowling, but then Point Muyi, no one shows up.
Exactly.
Bay City, no one if that's the case, like
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
for
know.
sure.
But I can tell you that that banquet is quite special. Usually sells out every year. You have to get your tickets early. Yeah, absolutely. So
I mean, even Gibraltar here. I mean, it's. I mean, they put on a hell of a show too, and
yeah, absolutely. I've heard about Gibraltar being a good.
Yeah, they're really growing, and there's a bunch of different smaller groups that are donating back, and there's a lot of groups that are doing really good things around the area.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to see everything back to the way it was. I hear about that stuff. We had Dick and Bob on, and they talk about the good times that they used to have. It's just I wish people would actually show up.
Well, look at you've got a good thing here. You guys are young and you don't have kids yet, so just know that when that time comes, when you're ready to build your family, that you want this to be a part of your children's lives. And if you do that, then this will continue. But if we don't raise our children to do this like we were raised to do it, then it's just going to go to the wayside, because it's just going to be something that you do in some spare time. And I hate that. I
agree.
And then and there's other issues to that too. We're conservationists as well. We have bird numbers right now that are absolutely incredible. We don't even know where they're coming from, but we've got all
bumping
these
up
birds.
the limits, everything.
And what happened last year with record numbers of birds? Avian flu spread like crazy.
Wildfire.
So there you go. We cut down hunter numbers, bird populations boom, and then they just check themselves out. I'd much rather see that people are going out there and taking birds and feeding themselves with them. And I just think that's the way it was meant to be. So I see nothing wrong with it at all.
So jumping off the festivals, you're living in Ohio. Is there a difference between the hunting down there, or the pressure down there, compared to up here? I mean, you've hunted up here a lot.
No, I think that you guys up here, the pressure is definitely more so, and I think there's just more of a concentration of hardcore waterfowlers in a very small area. Whereas where I'm at, we've got well over 20 miles of refuge.
Yeah, you guys got a lot.
So we can spread out quite a bit. You've got this small area of managed stuff that, don't get me wrong, is wonderful.
Oh,
but it's where you guys all concentrate.
And if not there, if you don't have a layout boat, then you're kind of screwed.
And then
almost.
You bring in the factor too that everybody's got a different style of hunting. So you guys go to the public and you've got the pass shooters standing on the dike walls. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you guys are trying to hunt over a spread. Right. So there's a bit of a clash there, culture clash, big time.
Big time call. Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Because as a hunter, to me, that's just a challenge. Okay, we see the problem. Now, how do we have a solution?
Yep.
No, let's get away from these guys, or do we go over and team up with them? Hey, sit here on the dike wall and pass shoot with you guys. What do you do? And just make those things happen instead of turning it into oh man, these guys, I can't believe they're out here. Because we can all do that. We can all harp on each other. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, they're still doing what they were, how they were raised to hunt and whatnot, and they're also feeding their families. So you can't hate on them. Is what they're doing, what we would consider the proper hunting etiquette? No. But then again, like I said, how were they taught? So,
well, I feel like that's I'm going to go back to social media here. Social media, a very big negative with it is somebody could post something like outrageous, right? Like shooting over their dog, or pass shooting birds at 100 yards up and not shooting anything or soaring anything. And I know people that were shooting limits, or not even shooting limits, but getting limits without even pulling the trigger because, they just float right into their spread, just dead, fresh birds. But posting those videos is bad. I mean, you're showing the world, bad stuff to do, or not the right way to do things, but it's good on their side. So, why not post that?
It's just, I don't know. I think that, I mean, everybody looks at this differently. What I'll say is just have respect for the resource.
Right.
That's it. I'm not a big fan of the high-fiving of kicking birds or, anything like that, or, or people holding cripples, stuff like that. That's just kind of not right. It's odd.
It's torture.
Just do what needs to be done. And that's it. That's all I'll say about that. But to each their own. If that's what gets you going to do that, then hey, you're still hunting. I don't agree with it, but you're still a hunter.
Right.
You're still hunting. So hey.
Yeah. No, I mean it's
I think it's a phase thing too, guys. No.
For sure.
When I was young, all we wanted to do was stack birds, piles of birds, lots of pictures. Even before social media, we wanted pictures anyways.
Yeah,
we want to show people, who you are, what we do.
Trying to make a name for yourself.
There comes a time where all that will pass, you guys, and you will get to more of the point where you want to enjoy just quality time afield with friends and family, because as you start to get older, you start to realize that time is just not on your side. Yeah. So, you try to take advantage of all the moments that you can. And the things that are more important is just spending quality time out there. The limits don't become that important anymore. Do you want to still shoot them? Oh, of course. Yeah. Heck yeah. No one wants to go out and wake up at 3 a.m, go get their spot and then not shoot anything.
Yeah.
But you start to just have a little bit different perspective on it. And it always, now that I'm in my 40s, I realize now why my dad and my godfather would just let birds come in and they wouldn't shoot. And I would always be like, why aren't you guys shooting?
Right.
They 100%
love
getting
watching
more
the birds.
enjoyment out of watching me fall in love with something that they taught me than them pulling the trigger. So, and it didn't matter if, I missed or not. I will say this, every once in a while, if I did miss and they had to clean up, I heard about that for the rest of the day. But, that's just that. I feel like it's all phase stuff, guys. So
I feel like that's a big thing. Like why me and Trav talked about doing this podcast and getting more of like that out there, like the just passion towards it all, instead of like just number game kind of thing. Just understanding that it's not all about that, and it's more about just enjoying the time being out there. I mean, growing up or whatever, for you and while I was getting into it. How many times did you go out in the water and not even pull a trigger and just watch the sunrise and just enjoy it being out there? You know what I mean? No, it's just
thousands. Right. I mean,
it's small stuff.
And sometimes those are the best
exactly.
days. I went out with Al one time for his birthday, and we watched the sun come up and cook duck poppers and wrapped in bacon, and we never pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Happy birthday, bro!
Loved
this is awesome."
Yeah.
We, so it just like. Perspective is everything, and as you get older, it all changes.
Yeah.
So.
No, I September's coming up. You getting that bug yet?
Oh yeah, that's why the dog's at the trainer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any prep coming up? Prep work, trailer. Getting permission still.
I'm not a big fan on washing my decoys. I don't do any of that. I just don't.
We got blinds though.
Blinds, we'll be brushing those soon.
Probably later in the month, I'd say.
Yeah, right around like the last week of August. We usually go out. I'll get with Jordan and a couple of his buddies, and we'll get over to one of the gun clubs, and we'll go over to the creek, and we'll cut down some grass and stuff, and we'll get it all in there, get that taken care of. Other than that, it's just waiting game, getting everything ready, getting the guns ready and whatnot. So just counting down.
With you guys, and I mean, you guys still kind of like scouting for the fields wise, or trying to get permission still, or I guess what's your advice on when to look and try to get permission and talk to farmers? Because for me, like even like now, it's too late.
Yeah, you should already be ahead of that.
Yeah, right. Right.
You should already be looking at the crops and whatnot, and knocking on doors before anything's even harvested. But if you've been doing this long enough, and you have, and you know that the last 2 weeks leading up to the opener, it's it
Oh,
could
it's
be
mayhem,
anything. It could
right.
be anything. They could
The
there
day
could be
before.
300 to 500 geese
Yeah.
in that cut hay before the opening day, and the next day not
Gone.
a single one shows up. So there's
That's September for you.
yeah, exactly, and these are all majority of the local geese in the first half of September. September really is fun for me. The 17th through the 27th, when the geese are starting to come back from James Bay, that's when it's
Those
a lot
calendar
more
birds.
fun. Absolutely.
Yep.
So those are a lot of the Creche birds, the ones that are gonna non-breed.
Yep.
They mold out up there, and then they're actually local, but they all molt out on James Bay. So they're coming back just to hang out for a little bit longer before they'd actually would hang out here, I guess, for the rest of the winter or move on.
And that's why I think that like the water is so overlooked, like ponds or like bigger, like I don't want to say
The
bigger.
water is, I think, hugely overlooked. And,
right. Even like the inland stuff though, like you got to know how to hunt it. You got to be able to scout it, because if it's a loaf, that's one thing, but a roost, that's a whole different ballgame.
September, pretty much where I'm at with September is the first weekend I'll hunt, and then I'm unless somebody has something totally on fire,
Right.
I pretty much don't head back out there till the 17th through the 27th, because it's just is what it is. The geese get shot up real quick. They go to the local marinas where they're safe.
know where they're safe, yep.
Absolutely, and then you're just basically sitting out there sweating your butt off all day.
Swat mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. Yeah. No, I mean I think we got to go through our trailer a little bit. I feel like last time we went through it, it was literally just thrown in there. I mean, you've seen the trailer before, and my dad is super uptight about
Everything being in its place.
Yeah. So everything's in there. We got to get that all situated. We got the permanent blinds. I think we're putting one in Sunday, actually. But yeah, we got a little bit of prep work. Couple more things. You got like a best memory out in the field with the dogs, with friends. I mean, a memory that beats everything else. I know I kind of put you on the spot there. It's a tough question because there's so many.
Yeah, there really is.
I mean, we talked about that hunt with all the guys. I mean, that's one of mine.
That's one of them. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, there are so many.
Our best band story, maybe.
I think I got a good one here, and this was 2 seasons back, and it was my birthday, and I was out on the rock wall, on the refuge wall, with my buddy Brody, and we had been sitting there hunting for a little bit, maybe an hour or so, and
this is good.
Yeah, we had a flock of ducks come in, all mallards. There was 3 of them. They come over the spread. We sit up, boom, 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 and we shoot all 3 of them. And the one cripples and swims off, but the other 2 are dead in the decoys. And I don't know why. I just kept telling myself, I'm like, oh, yeah, one of these is going to have a band on it. I just got this feeling, You
got to remember people, like remind the people, though, how many years you've hunted. Not to interrupt, though, but how many years you've hunted and have never shot anything.
Yeah, so that's right. This was my first duck band. My very first, like that I shot 100%. No one called it out of my hand or
You've
anything.
seen them die, just
But,
not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've killed a couple duck bands, but I've always had to give them away because someone's always said that they shot it. So, and I'm just not one to
Not to tell a story right away, but
no, you're quite all right. So anyway, I just kept telling myself, hey, Nix, bring me back a band. So she goes out and she gets the first 2 mallards, and when she brought the second one back, they were both naked. So I thought, oh, no big deal, and that's okay. We had some mallards, and I was happy. Birthday wish come true. You got your birds on your birthday. That's cool. Well, Brody comes back on the boat. He goes out and he kills this hen. And he comes back and he brought the bird with him, which I thought was odd.
You got to tell a story beforehand, though, about the phone.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
We're gonna get to
all
that.
right.
So he comes back and he's got this bird in his hand, and I'm literally heartbroken at this point because on his way back, I realized that when I was casting the dog, that my cell phone had fell out of my waders and was in the lake, and this was devastating to me because I didn't think that I had these pictures backed up on the cloud from a hunt that I had with my son just like a week prior, and I was literally like almost ready to cry. I was that upset about losing my phone in the lake, and here comes Brody, and I look back at him and I'm like, why are you carrying that duck in your hand? Just leave it in the boat. And he's like, because it's banded. MF throws it in my lap, and I go, no way. And so, like, I'm at the lowest of lows here, like, literally about to cry.
Highs.
You know, like, Brody's asking me what's wrong, you know, and I'm like, I lost my phone, man. And he's like, well, I got this banded. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool. That was one that I'll definitely never forget because that was my first band. And then to boot, me and him went back out there 3 days later on a southwest wind, and the water was blown out 3 feet, you guys. And I found my phone with 30% battery left, and it had been in the water in 3 feet of water for 3 days.
Yep.
And that was incredible. So
I remember hearing that. I'm like, dude, there is no way.
Yeah, that was just unbelievable hunt. And then an unbelievable couple days later. So
I'm just saying experience. Yeah, just the first duck band, and like you said, the lowest of the low, highest of the high. I mean, just so many emotions going on right there.
It was wild. The stuff we do to ourselves is
we beat ourselves up pretty bad, don't we?
Wild, man.
Especially like the waterfowl hunters, because it's like you get a flock of birds that flare on you, and you're like, was it somebody's face? Was it the blind? Was it the dog?
You always got to be optimistic as a waterfowl hunter because, like, here's another good one. Remember the hunt that we had where I had Mir come up? Mike came up, and it was so foggy. It was so foggy that morning. We went up and set up at Daryl's.
Was this the bean field?
Yep.
In the corner?
Yep, in the back. Daryl's field in the back.
I wasn't there. I'd seen the picture. Yeah.
It was so foggy that morning that literally at 11 o'clock, I was like, we're going to be done. We had set up from sun up to 11. You couldn't see 5 feet in front of your face. I'm like, this is not going to happen.
Dumb.
We're done.
Right.
At 11:05, we had one group do it, and we shot out. We shot out on the 8 guys. So it was.
Was it a traffic field though? Weren't they behind you or something?
No. We were in. You know how Daryl's splits that.
Yeah.
We were just on the far side.
Okay, I got you.
So I don't even know where the birds came from because it was so foggy. But they came in, they did it. And everybody shot like a champ. So one flock came in. We killed our limit, and we were.
It's insane.
So 5 minutes,
right,
guys. It happened in 5 minutes. While we sat there all morning, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna pick up and be done.
Should have just started setting up at 10 that day.
That's why, and that's why waterfowl hunting is amazing because you just never know. I mean, hunting anything or fishing for that matter, whatever your quarry is, you go out there.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. You can't do anything on the couch.
Can't assume. You can't predict. You can't, the couch for sure.
Can't kill them on the couch. You can't fish on the couch.
And then see all like the social media, like, man, this guy shot this. Well, yeah, you're not doing it because you're not out there, man.
So, obviously I'm not on Snapchat anymore, but you remember the end of last year, the post I was putting up pretty much like, yeah, guys, sit there Sunday, watch football because there's no geese flying, and we'd have a limit.
Yeah,
so it's just one of those things where you got to stay consistent. That's one of the things that made me so hardcore about goose hunting too, was that when the season would get to just goose only, and it was only 2 birds,
it'd be gone.
Guys would be like, I'm not going out there for 2 birds, freeze my butt off for 2 birds. Yeah. But me and Al, we were going out there every single day. We were shooting our 2 birds. And we were killing quite a few leg bands at the time too. Yeah. So we couldn't understand why people wanted to stay home and be all fuzzy and warm when you could go out and still be doing your thing. But that's the way it was. And so those are the things that separate the men from the boys. The guys that are going to do it regardless.
Oh, dude, I remember that one hunt you had 3-4 years ago now. It's crazy to think that we've known each other for that long. Mm-hmm. But you sent me a Snapchat. I'm sitting at work, and you're like, if you're at work, you better be out here, or you better get off right now. And then you look on the ground, there's like Specs, Rosses, bands. And dude, that was a day where like I literally like watched that Snapchat and like wanted to throw my phone as hard as I can through a brick wall, and hopefully it just shatters, because seeing that, like what you guys were doing at that time, that reverse migration that was going on was incredible. Though.
Well, I can tell you who was hating life more than you, and that was Jordan.
Oh, I'm sure. Because
he was invited on that hunt, and he'll tell you he decided to go with another group of guys. So, he's it is what it is, but definitely he's like, man, I'm like, bro,
yeah, I told you.
Invited you. Yeah. I invited you.
But then it goes back to it, though. You just never know what's going to happen. Though.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It could have been.
Absolutely. It could have flipped.
Right.
And those guys could have been the ones that had that happen and we not. So,
right. Exactly.
You know, that day was just, that day. Wow.
That was incredible.
That's another one, you know, like, and that all happened in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, like,
I remember,
people got to understand, we took Specs and Rosses in Ohio. You know, that just doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't happen very often. It just, and for the longest time, it didn't happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with the boom in the populations now, you're seeing a lot more of the white birds and the specks of white fronts come east of the Mississippi, where before that was just not the case.
We had some specks fly over us, and which I didn't know at the time, but we had snows in the field when, like this year, and I didn't know it until a guy that was hunting across the highway was like, "Oh, did you guys get into those at all?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you had specks out there and like 2 or 3 snows and like 2 blues." I'm like, "What?" I go to the refuge, like the roost. Yeah, they're just sitting out there, just chilling. I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like, how did I like?" Because I'm one of those people that I'll sit out in the field and like see how they're set up. You know what I mean? Like, I do think about it like way too hard, probably more than I should. But like
tunnel vision.
Yeah. But like, I want to see how they're out there. I kind of want to match the hash, like
right
to an extent. You know what I mean? And I in a sense, I feel like I'll give my credit towards that on the success rate that we have. But you know, it's just like, how did I miss all that out there?
Oh, bro, you got to give yourself credit, because honestly, with the amount of ground that you cover where you're at, if you weren't doing what you're doing, you guys would not be anywhere close to as successful as you are. And it's just because that, you know, it's just so spread out.
Yeah, so, no, for sure. We're just putting that time in, though.
And the other thing, too, is if you just sit there and you roast the spots around your house, then that's it. You roast
You're done.
And
right.
Yeah, so then it becomes hit or miss.
Right.
So, you know, it's not you have a really unique situation, bro. So, you know, take care of it for sure.
Yeah. No. One last thing, unless you have anything else. Best tips or advice for people with your hunting crew, or you know, getting into it. Any advice for maybe do in the dogs? What would be your best advice for somebody?
My best advice is to find the people that are doing the things right, or doing the things that you like. So if you're watching a video and you're like, "That's what I want to do when I'm hunting," then start taking notes. You know,
it's a really good one,
because that's how it started for me. I mean, I would have never been as successful and even wanted to blow a goose call like I did, hadn't it been for those videos during that time. You know, like, they made goose hunting cool.
Exactly.
And that's just like, that was everything to me. I didn't care what anybody thought either. I can tell you how many times I've been made fun of for blowing my goose call in traffic and all type of people pulling their phones out. I don't care. I love it, and that's just the way it's going to be. So with that said, find the people that are doing the right things, and then just basically follow them, follow the people that they follow or that they hunt with, and just emulate that. And the other thing is have proper etiquette, know proper gun safety. The basics of hunting.
You should know when you're tiny.
They're important for a reason. We get crammed in tight in these blinds, or we're laying next to each other tight. Guns fall over. Things happen. You don't want to be the guy that has to go tell his buddy's wife that you shot him on accident because the gun fell over and you had the safety off, or you didn't know what you were doing with your firearm. You know.
Did you ever hear about that story about that guy up in, I think it was Canada? He, I wanted to say this earlier, but I think we started talking about something else. There was a guy in Canada. He wanted to get his dog like 1,000 retrieves. So he goes up there. His buddy calls him. He's like, and he was just shy of it. So his buddy calls. He's like, "Hey, do you want to help guide for me? This, that, and the other." He's like, "Yeah, I'll go up there. Maybe the dog will get that mark. Maybe it was 1,000. Maybe it was more. Whatever it was." So they go up there. He starts talking to this guy next to him, and he's like, starts getting like really close to this guy. Like, he's like, "Man, it's a cool dude. I hang out with this guy, like, even after the hunt, like, not as just a client, you know." First group of snows come in. I want to say it was snows. First group of snows come in, and they shoot. And, you know, just like anything else, sends his dog out there. Dog gets it. And then he looks over, and the guy that was 2 guys over from him is like white in the face. He's like, what's going on right now? Well, he fell when he was getting up, shot. His buddy was like right in front of him when he shot. The wad was stuck inside of his friend. That guy that he was just so close with ended up passing away.
Oh,
it was just like, but the safety of like, it just goes back to it though. Not to like get real dark with it, but like just
but that's
crazy things happen.
That's it.
And be aware of everything around you, like the bottom of the blinds, whatever it is. Just be aware.
100%. I mean, we all get excited when we're hunting because it's exciting. But we have to always remember safety first, safety first, safety first.
Yeah, that's never forget it.
Key, man. When I used to do my spiels as a guide, first rule was safety first. Last rule was safety first.
Yeah.
Again, like
get it in people's head. Right.
Absolutely. And I literally had gentlemen that came to my blind and were like, "This is the first day I've shot a shotgun," and I was like, "Whoa, whoa,
wait a minute, back it up a bit."
So thank God that day it was just two gentlemen, and I was willing to work with them.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we were going over safety in the hotel room the night before," and I'm like, "So wait a minute, bro, you've never even fired a shotgun?" And he's like, "Never." So I got this a good one for you. First group of geese come in. It's a 2-pack. I'm like, all right, these geese are coming on the right-hand side, guys. Get ready. I'm telling the guy, do not turn that safety off until I drop this door. Okay? So he's like, okay, no problem. 2 geese come in, hit the deck. I'm like, ready? 1, 2, 3. Boom, drop the doors. He literally stood up like Rambo, tucked the stock under his armpit, and went boom, boom, boom. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Sit down. Turn your safety on. And I'm like, yo, so I'm like, we got to go over something real quick.
Holy smokes.
Of course, he didn't shoot anything.
I was going to say, I didn't.
So, I explained to him, the basics, the
shoulder, get it down.
Of your sight plane, my friend.
Yeah.
You can't see anything when you're holding it under your armpit. And he's like, yeah, and my arm hurts now. Yeah, no doubt, bro.
He's looking at that gun and it go flying behind him.
Oh, bro.
He must have the death grip on that gun.
It was unbelievable. So that was one like that, and I'll never forget that one.
Wow.
Wild, dude.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I really appreciate you coming up. I feel like I could talk for hours more, and we're already almost 2 hours into this whole thing. And
I just want to say one last thing too. Another tip: just immerse yourself in this. If this is what you want, and you want to, be a provider and a good hunter, anything that's out there, just take it in. The videos, the DVDs, buy them, support people. The Roost is a good one. I know there's guys that do like it, guys that don't. I think it's like $4 a month, guys.
Yeah, it's $4.90. Yeah, something like that.
And then Scott's got his DVDs. He's got his CDs on his website. Get those. Same thing, Zinc. You can buy his DVDs. Same thing with foils. All that stuff. DVDs, CDs. Just immerse yourself in it.
So for me, with the Roost, I mean, I don't care about the killing. I just want to look at the hide or the goose spreads. Like, take bits and pieces out of everything that you see.
100%.
Whether it be an Instagram picture or whatever.
I'll tell you.
Take it.
So one thing real quick too is the first time I ever tried to hunt on ice was because of a hunt that I seen someone else do on Instagram or on on YouTube, and I'm like, wait a second, they're putting decoys on the ice, just on the ice, and lo and behold,
you guys pounded them. I remember that.
Smoked them. So little things like that, take little bits and pieces, like you said, and run with it. So
anything you want to plug before we get out of here, like Instagram or?
No, I just want to say
where people can find you.
IG at SMG2550. Snapchat, I'm working on getting it back up. It's SG2550. As of right now, they don't like me, so I don't have an account on there. We're working on it. But, and just want to say thanks to everybody that always shows me love, and any of the compliments you guys give me, whether it's about me or my dog or my calling, it's very much appreciated because I've put so much time into it. So thank you for that, and don't ever be shy. If you got questions you want to ask or anything, I'm very personable. I'll talk to you about anything. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate you, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming up, man, on short notice. And like I said, I feel like we could talk for more hours.
I can't
and
believe it's 2 hours already.
that's what I'm saying, man.
Wild.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. Do want to shout out, Migra Shells helping us out a lot, and then Point Moulet will be there. I'll be up in Bay City, which this will be out after the fact, but and GK calls. So thanks to you guys, and thank you, Sean, for coming up. And till next time.
You're welcome.